Johnny Moxley returns. Goldberg returns. Jericho returns. Omega returns. All of that coming up here on the Squared
Wait a minute.
What?
Don't you want to talk about the ratings?
Again?
It's an ongoing issue.
Coming up next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. And it seemed like we were going to have a little bit of a slow wrestling news week, but then all of a sudden, this weekend comes and
social media explodes, the internet breaks, and everything else in between.
Yeah, exactly. We have Chris Jericho showing up at Southern Honor Wrestling. Kenny Omega showing up as well. Cody Rhodes showing up. He was already advertised for the show. We have Chris Jericho challenging Kazichuka Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. The video package for Johnny Moxley. There's just a lot to talk about now. And of course, WWE promoting Goldberg returning for the Saudi Arabia show on June 7th. So let's start with Chris Jericho on this whole thing, because it seems like he's creating the most buzz with everything. So he shows up at this independent wrestling show in Georgia, and he comes out with the lights. After the lights go out, he shows up. Lights go out again. Kenny Omega shows up. They have a thing, and then the entire locker room comes out, attacks Chris Jericho, and then they attack. I'm not exactly sure who the wrestler was that they all attacked and did all their finishers on. And then Kenny cuts a promo, promoting independent wrestling and that AEW is supporting independent wrestling. Does this help the push for Double or Nothing?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it helps the push, obviously, because they know who their hardcore fan is and who their fan base is, and they know that a good majority of that fan base and the consumer that they're trying to attract is going to be the independent wrestling hardcore fan. So continuously showing up at these events is only going to get them more and more free publicity, where it goes on YouTube, it goes on Twitter, it becomes viral, it's all over social media. I imagine we're going to see some more of this in the rest of the weeks leading up to Double or Nothing. But it's very cool to see a guy like Chris Jericho, who's accomplished so much, do something like this, because you'd almost think that a guy like him who's done everything that there is to do in the business, something like this, one could assume that this is kind of above him to show up at like an independent show.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what? He's willing to do it, which means I think he's going to stay true to what he said about AEW. He's going to be committed to the company. He's going to work really hard and try to do whatever he can to get their name out there and make sure that AEW is a success at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is he is creating this buzz himself through social media. He goes on Instagram and says that he and Kenny Omega made this moment to help build Double or Nothing. And I after seeing this, it kind of reignites the buzz and reignites the fire into this match or Double or Nothing, because at this point, it's like, well, it's a rematch of a match we already saw, and there's really no build to it, but then here's the start of the build.
Right.
And with 3 weeks to go, you're going to have to start doing stuff like this, and we haven't seen any of them really do anything together on Being the Elite or the Road to Double or Nothing. So it's nice to see something like this out of the blue, where, the other All Elite Wrestling invasions that have happened, they kind of teased it on social media.
Right.
We actually saw one, and we have the videos for that. You just click the eye above my head and we'll link it in the description. When they came to Waterbury, it was Cody Rhodes and Hangman Page.
Right.
And that was really like the last time that's happened. So now with 3 weeks to go, do you think we see more of this heading into the final weeks going into Double or Nothing?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think AEW is certainly at an advantage not having to produce weekly content right now. We've gone over that time and time again. But they're also at a disadvantage at the same time, because leading into Double or Nothing or any of the pay-per-views that they have without weekly programming, it gets difficult to, make sure that people are paying attention to what's going on and following storylines and really getting storylines out there for people to see. So unless you watch Being the Elite or something of that nature, they're going to have to do things like this to make sure that people are still paying attention and still bought in. That way, once Double or Nothing happens, you have people buying the pay-per-view, you have people interested, which I'm certainly interested. I'm just excited to see something that's going to be different than the WWE, and I want to see what they actually bring to the plate, and if it's going to be something totally different, or if it's just going to be comparable to like Ring of Honor or New Japan Pro Wrestling, because that's the one thing that they keep talking about. This is going to be an alternative. It's going to be different. One of the things that I noticed is I think the day before, they're actually going to do like live weigh-ins.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty cool, because
I think they did that for All In too.
Well, it adds legitimacy to the product and to the show. You know, it has that UFC or boxing, that realism type feel to it, where, you know, with WWE, they don't do stuff like that. So but something very small that could add a little extra wrinkle into it and make it a little bit different, and could be intriguing. So
yeah. Speaking of New Japan Pro Wrestling, less than 12 hours later, we had the Dantaku show, in which Kazichuka Okada successfully defended his IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Sonata. And afterwards, you know, a promo goes up on the screen where Chris Jericho challenges Okada, and Okada accepts. So right there, Jericho's creating buzz, not only in AEW, but also New Japan, and just really creating social media chaos, really, with just what he's done in less than 12 hours. Do you think, yes, the show is happening at Dominion, which is one of New Japan's big pay-per-view shows, but do you think this match should have happened at the G1 Supercard instead?
I don't know if it should have necessarily happened at the G1. I think that the match with him and Kenny Omega should certainly happen before the match with Okada. I think that it's interesting that they're going to announce this match like they did with Jericho coming out and saying that this match is going to take place before Double or Nothing even happens. So,
right. Well, I mean, Dominion is June 9th, so there's that very, very short turnaround to really promote it. So, you know, New Japan is doing their thing is, hey, if we have Jericho and we want him in this high-profile match, we got to promote it now, because if you promote it after Double or Nothing, what do you have, like 15 days, 2 weeks to do that?
But that's kind of where things become a little difficult, because let's just assume Jericho ends up beating Kenny Omega, right? Then he goes on to wrestle Okada. Well, if Okada beats him, does that now kind of mean that, you know, anybody in New Japan, or the highest guy, the guy with the highest caliber name, Okada, is he now better than Chris Jericho, who might be the biggest guy in AEW? So
true, but
it gets a little difficult.
You're also talking about someone who many consider the greatest wrestler today, in Kazuchika Okada.
But if I'm Tony Khan, I don't want any of my top tier guys like a Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks. I wouldn't want them going to another promotion and losing, because I don't think that, especially when you're trying to launch your promotion, you want your guys to be considered the best wrestlers in the world, because he said that if he has Chris Jericho go to Japan and lose to Okada, loses a little bit of credibility. I know wrestling is predetermined and all of that, but it just kind of sets the precedent that New Japan is right here and AEW might be right there.
True.
In my opinion.
Now, what if somehow Jericho beats Okada? Does he carry the IWGP Heavyweight Championship to All Elite Wrestling?
I don't know. It'll certainly be interesting, especially because we didn't even know if there was going to be this talent sharing, and it seems like there's going to be guys going back and forth. Now, does that just mean guys like Jericho and Omega can go to New Japan Pro Wrestling? Because I know Jericho said that his contract wasn't exclusive and he could do certain things outside of All Elite Wrestling. And I think Kenny Omega said the same thing. Now, the interesting part is going to be, is New Japan Pro Wrestling going to allow any of their guys, like a Kota Ibushi or Okada, Naito, any of those guys, are they going to be allowed to go perform in an All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view or in their ring at their show? So I guess the only thing left to do is wait and see.
Yep, definitely wait and see. Now, let's switch over to WWE for just a little bit here. They have this show on June 7th in Saudi Arabia. There's no name officially yet. We just know it's in Jeddah. We know it's June 7th, and we know that Goldberg and The Undertaker will be there in some capacity, whether it's a match, whether it's against each other, whether it's a segment. I don't know, but they're really pushing Goldberg there. And of course, people are speculating and assuming that Goldberg is there because WWE did not want him to go to AEW.
Right.
Do you feel that was a ploy for WWE to avoid Goldberg going to AEW?
Well, I feel like WWE certainly is going to do whatever they can to attract any type of talent with any sort of buzz, and do whatever they can to prevent them from going to AEW or other promotions. And that could be at a high level, like a guy like Goldberg or The Undertaker, and it could be at a lower level, like a guy like Joey Ryan, because if rumors are correct, they offered Joey Ryan a pretty substantial contract just to go there, work in NXT, and then train guys. And that was done specifically to block him from going to AEW. So yeah, they could be kind of throwing their money around and trying to force their hand a little bit to keep certain talents away from AEW, which it's certainly smart on WWE's behalf, because why would they want certain talent to go to AEW?
Right. I mean, at the end of it, we talked about whether WWE feels that All Elite Wrestling is competition or an alternative. We have that discussion. It's in the description. I'll put an eye above my head on that one as well.
They're definitely starting to feel the heat, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, to it is a point, but with everything happening on different days and whatnot, you have to ask yourself the end game of it all. What are they really competing for if it's a competition? Yes, they're competing for talent, but that's everybody. That's Ring of Honor. That's New Japan. That's MLW. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're competition.
No, but I don't know if Vince McMahon has really had somebody with the type of money like the Khan family has. Right. Really kind of, he hasn't been in a position where, since WCW at least, where he had Ted Turner offering these guys different types of contracts, more money. He hasn't really had to deal with that in a long time.
True.
So now he's going to have to pay certain guys probably more than maybe they're worth, just to keep them away from other promotions.
For example, the Revival, who are offered $500,000 for, I don't remember the years, but they turned it down.
Well, I wouldn't even say they're not worth it, but based on what the WWE has done with them, I would say no, they shouldn't pay them that money.
Right.
But they also don't want them going to AEW.
I understand. And the same thing with Leo Rush, that whole situation where he was offered $300,000 for 6 years and he rejected it and asked for double that amount. So, AEW might be in that situation where some of these WWE guys might feel, hey, if they have the money, they might offer me more, so I can use that as negotiation leverage.
I think the Usos actually did that.
Yeah.
In their recent contract negotiations, if reports are correct, they actually used that as a ploy to get more money.
Now, one person they weren't able to re-sign, at least right now, is Dean Ambrose, aka Jon Moxley, who has this promo vignette come out on May 1st on his Twitter, and again creating some huge social media buzz. You have people reporting or speculating. I'm not sure if this was slice wrestling or sliced wrestling, because it's hard to decipher the two. But sliced with a D is a parody of slice without the D, just for those that aren't sure yet. Reporting that WWE produced the thing and this is his way to be repackaged as Jon Moxley. That is a load of BS.
I don't buy that for a single second.
Not at all. But do you see Ambrose now? This is his way of going to All Elite Wrestling. And a lot of people are pointing to one specific part in this vignette, and that is the dice that are shown on the wall. They read 2 and 5, which would be 25, and that is when Double or Nothing is May 25th.
I mean, if you believe that is actually an indication that he's going to show up at Double or Nothing, then yeah, it's likely he could go to All Elite Wrestling. But then on the other hand, it could just be a swerve. You could assume this is a video package created by WWE, but I honestly highly doubt that. There's guns in the video. There's barbed wire. There, you see his arm get stuck in the barbed wire. He's bleeding all over the place. I haven't seen anything nearly this edgy in recent memory in WWE in quite a long time. So to think that, they're going to do something like this, well, I would hope they would. I just don't think it's something that they would actually do.
Now, when I watch this and, watching it a couple of times, the comparison to WWE's produced vignettes of this was, I don't know why, this came into my head, was Nathan Jones when they were promoting him and that
in the cell
and the whole prisoner thing. Now, it wasn't as bloody or, with
And that was also a long time ago.
It was also a long time ago, but the production value, I guess, seemed to me like this is more if Nathan Jones was coming to WWE,
Right.
that whole vignette package and all that. That's what it reminded me of. Some people would like to think that Ambrose or Moxley are will go to Impact Wrestling.
I don't think so.
I mean,
I don't see it. I don't see why.
I mean, Impact, it seems like they're signing more people to exclusive contracts and have some more money than they had in the past. So maybe this is like the first big contract they're able to bring up, and the connection with Sami Callihan and OVE, Ohio versus everyone. Maybe he gets involved with that. I could see it, but I think it's more towards AEW that he leads to.
Yeah.
So, of course, with Ambrose leaving, we have these mysterious injuries that are happening in WWE. Roman Reigns goes to SmackDown, and now the ratings hit an all-time low.
Yep.
So Raw's third hour hit 1.8 million viewers. SmackDown averaged 1.8 million viewers for their 2 hours. There is NBA basketball. They're still in the top 5 in cable. So, I mean, at this point, I feel like we're beating a dead horse. But every week, it seems like they just make it a reason to talk about with these ratings. So,
Well, the ratings consistently have gone down. The interest in WWE has gone down.
Mhm.
The quality of the product, in my opinion, is the worst it's been in a long time.
Is it as bad? Is it as bad as 1995 WWF, where you have Duke the Dumpster Droese and the Goon and Mantar?
Well, there's one specific segment that really irritated me, and this is on both Raw and SmackDown. You know, when the McMahons came out and Triple H came out and they said that we promised change and there's going to be all these new feuds and everything else. All right, we look at Raw and we look at SmackDown. Who's now the new authoritarian figure that's now stepping in, that's going to try and bring down a babyface? It's Shane McMahon. That role of a McMahon or an authority figure and that kind of relationship with other wrestlers, that's been something they've been pushing since Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes.
That storyline specifically has run its course. And not only that, but you have Roman Reigns. Now, first of all, Shane is feuding with both The Miz and Roman Reigns on both shows. For what reason? I don't know. I mean, I know why, but it's just kind of pointless to me. He brings out his muscle on SmackDown. The B team. I'm sorry. Like, you guys, you want us to take your show seriously. You've built up Roman Reigns to be this guy that's untouchable, and you bring out the B team? Like, come on.
Well, in their defense, it was the B team with the enforcer Elias at ringside.
But
so it was really a 3-on-1.
And why would all three of those people align themselves? For what like they have nothing, no common interest. What? Because they want to beat up Roman Reigns one specific night, and now Roman Reigns all of a sudden has unfinished business, and he's barred from going to Raw because somebody tweeted that out. But they can't even keep their shit straight, so they got everyone else going back and forth. So Aleister Black, Ricochet, the Club, whoever, they can go back and forth, but when it comes to Roman Reigns, he's barred.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. It's not because they don't have talent. It's because the writing sucks. The show's terrible. It's lackluster every week. I turn it on 10 minutes into the show. What do we have? We have 5 superstars in there arguing back and forth and bickering about who's going to win Money in the Bank. That's probably the same way the show before the Money in the Bank opened the past, 6 years. And I guarantee you at some point this week on either Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, we're going to have 6 ladders in the middle of the ring, and guys are going to be standing up there arguing just like the same thing they did the past 2 or 3 years. And I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but they promised all this change. Where is it? You brought up NXT guys. You bury them every week. You got Bobby Roode with a mustache.
Not all of them, because Ricochet's in the Money in the Bank match, and Lacey Evans is going for the Raw Women's Championship. So.
Lacey Evans will be a mid-carder in 3 months. Because they always do this. They push them into the main event, and then all of a sudden, we don't know. Asuka's a perfect example of that. Pushed her straight to the top, and then look, she lost it. Now she's mostly irrelevant. Oh, well, she's with Kairi Sane and Paige because that makes sense too. I could honestly go on and on and on.
It makes sense.
Terrible.
That does make sense because obviously there's a connection of Kairi and Asuka being Japanese wrestlers, and they're going to need someone to talk for them because of the language barrier. That's where Paige comes in. Someone that is well liked in not just backstage, but on camera. People love Paige. She's a good talker. They need something for her to do because she can't wrestle anymore. They got rid of the authoritative figures unless you're a McMahon. So why not make her the manager of these guys and make her be the mouthpiece?
I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but Asuka, to me, is beyond being in a tag team.
I agree, but
I get the language barrier whole thing, and I know she should probably have a mouthpiece, but it's not just that. I mean, you look at how Raw starts every week. You look at how it ends. How did AJ Styles and Seth Rollins? Well, it was a good segment. The verbal back and forth was good. I think we saw AJ Styles turn heel. It's another contract signing. Yeah. It's either a contract signing or it's a
pull apart
brawl when it's two big guys. There's nothing there. There's no substance. There's no backstory. Like you look at the storyline between Gargano and Ciampa, like there was a storyline and it was linear and it was followed and there was human emotion involved in it and people could buy into it. And that's why the fans would go nuts when they wanted to see one of those guys win.
Right.
They're just throwing people together and hoping that the fans will get interested in it without any type of emotion or good storylines behind it.
Right.
It's the same thing week after week, and it's gone on for year after year after year after year, and it's finally going to catch up to them now, I think.
Yeah,
that's why the ratings have been dropping.
It may be, and this may also affect the rest of the wrestling industry as far as...
Certainly could.
It certainly could, and I want to actually carry that over to our next episode, so make sure you subscribe, hit that bell for notifications for when that episode goes up. Comment below on anything that we talked about. What are your thoughts on Chris Jericho going for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship? What do you think about the Raw ratings? Is it salvageable at this point? Let us know about what are your thoughts on the invasion at Southern Honor Wrestling? Don't forget to like this video, share it all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. Again, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications because we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. For Rob Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.